The living room buzzed with excitement as relatives gathered around the dining table, admiring the decorations and laughing over glasses of sparkling cider. Balloons floated near the ceiling, and a banner across the wall read, "Congratulations, Emma and Ryan." Emma stood proudly in the center of the room, her diamond engagement ring catching the light as she held her fiancé's arm. Ryan Parker, tall, composed, and wearing a crisp navy blue suit, looked every bit like the disciplined officer he was. His posture alone hinted at years of military training. Everyone was impressed. Everyone except one person. Near the kitchen doorway stood Emma's older brother, Daniel Carter. He wore a simple button-down shirt, slightly wrinkled, and jeans that had clearly seen better days. In a room filled with polished shoes and expensive perfume, Daniel looked painfully ordinary. Emma noticed him and sighed loudly. "Well," she said with a smirk, loud enough for everyone to hear, "look who finally decided to show up." The room grew quiet. Daniel forced a small smile. "Hey, Emma, congratulations." She raised an eyebrow. "That's all you've got? No gift? No speech?" "I brought something," Daniel said calmly, holding up a small envelope. Emma laughed. "Please tell me it's not another one of your inspirational notes." A few cousins chuckled awkwardly. Ryan glanced between them, sensing tension. Daniel placed the envelope on the table. "It's just something small." Emma crossed her arms. "You know, Daniel, this is exactly why Mom always worried about you." The room went still. Daniel said nothing. Emma continued, clearly enjoying the attention. "Everyone else here has done something with their life. Lawyers, engineers, business owners." She gestured toward Ryan proudly. "And my fiancé? He's a Navy SEAL." Several guests nodded in admiration. Emma looked back at her brother. "And you?" she said bluntly. "You're still what exactly?" Daniel shrugged lightly. "I do a few things." Emma laughed again. "Translation, nothing," their mother whispered nervously. "Emma, that's enough." But Emma wasn't done. "You've always been the same," she said. "Quiet, mysterious, disappearing for months at a time. No career, no achievements, nothing to show for it." A cousin muttered, "That's a bit harsh." Emma ignored it. "Honestly, Daniel," she said, shaking her head, "sometimes I think you're just afraid to admit you're a failure." The word hung in the air like a slap. Failure. Daniel's expression didn't change. He simply nodded once and took a sip of water. Ryan watched him carefully now. Something about Daniel didn't match Emma's description. He stood too straight. His eyes were too calm, and his silence felt deliberate. Emma continued, unaware. Meanwhile, Ryan has spent years risking his life for this country. She wrapped her arm proudly around her fiancé. "He's a real hero." The room erupted into applause. Ryan gave a polite nod. Then he looked back at Daniel. For a long moment, the two men simply stared at each other. Ryan's eyes narrowed slightly. "Excuse me," he said suddenly. He stepped away from Emma and walked slowly across the room. Every conversation stopped. Emma frowned. "Ryan." But Ryan wasn't listening. He stopped directly in front of Daniel. Up close, the two men studied each other. Ryan noticed a faint scar near Daniel's eyebrow, another along his wrist, and the unmistakable posture of someone who had spent years in combat training. Ryan's expression shifted from curiosity to realization. "Sir," Ryan said quietly. Before anyone could react, Ryan straightened his back sharply. Then he raised his hand and gave Daniel a perfect military salute. The room exploded into confused murmurs. Emma blinked in shock. "Ryan, what are you doing?" Ryan didn't lower his hand. Daniel sighed softly. "You don't have to do that." Ryan shook his head firmly. "Yes, sir, I do." Emma stepped forward. "Okay, seriously, what is going on?" Ryan finally lowered his salute. He turned to Emma slowly. "You said your brother was a failure." Emma nodded impatiently. "Well, yeah." Ryan looked stunned. "Do you even know who he is?" Emma rolled her eyes. "He's Daniel, my brother who never tells anyone what he does." Ryan turned back toward Daniel. "Sir, with respect, why didn't you say anything?" Daniel shrugged. "Because it never mattered." The room waited in silence. Ryan looked at Emma again. "Your brother," he said carefully, Trained half the SEAL instructors I learned from. Emma froze. What? Ryan continued. He's Colonel Daniel Carter. The words hit like thunder. Retired Special Operations Command. Gasps spread through the room. Emma's mouth fell open. No, that's not. Ryan nodded. He spent 20 years leading covert operations overseas. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. It was just my job. Ryan almost laughed. Just your job? He looked around the room. Every SEAL trainee hears stories about a commander called Ghost. He turned back to Daniel. That was you. Several relatives stared in disbelief. Emma shook her head slowly. You were in the military? Daniel nodded slightly. For a while. Ryan spoke again, his voice filled with respect. He led missions that are still classified. Emma's confidence crumbled. But you never said anything. Daniel smiled gently. You never asked. The room fell silent again. Emma looked down at the floor, suddenly embarrassed. All the laughter, the jokes, the word failure. Ryan stepped closer to Daniel. Sir, it's an honor to finally meet you. Daniel shook his head modestly. I'm retired now. Ryan smiled. You may be retired, but to people like me... He paused. You're the reason we wear this uniform. Emma slowly walked forward. Her voice was quieter now. Daniel, I'm sorry. Daniel looked at his little sister. For a moment, the tension faded. You don't have to apologize. But I called you... A failure, he finished. He chuckled softly. I've been called worse. Ryan laughed under his breath. Emma shook her head, still stunned. I can't believe you kept a secret. Daniel picked up the small envelope he had brought and handed it to her. Open it. Emma did. Inside was a handwritten note and a check. Her eyes widened. It was enough to pay for the entire wedding. She looked up, speechless. Daniel shrugged again. Figured you could use some help. Emma's eyes filled with tears. You're unbelievable. Ryan smiled. No, he said respectfully. He's just a legend,